Welcoming everyone to session 4 of the event. In this session, we are going to discuss exploration strategy and policy framework. I would now like to take the privilege to introduce the esteemed panelists. We have Mr. Audun Hole, Global GeoX Business Manager, Schlumberger, with more than 27 years of experience as a geologist from exploration assessment field development and executive management in operating and service companies, Audun is assisting customers in developing effective exploration workflows, guidelines, and best practices using GeoX to improve exploration efficiency using his extensive experience and domain expertise in assessment methodology. He is also a key stakeholder in forming Schlumberger's strategy and vision for future development of exploration decision support solutions. We welcome you, sir. I would also like to welcome Dr. P. Chandrasekaran, Director, Exploration Oil India Limited. Dr. Chandrasekaran took over as Director, Exploration and Development of Oil India Limited on 1st April 2017. In his rich and illustrious career, spanning over 3 decades, Dr. Chandrasekaran was closely associated with several oil and gas discoveries in KG, Kaveri, A&AA basins. He was involved in all the facets of hydrocarbon exploration, like operations geology, GNG analysis, prospect generation and evaluation, reserve estimation, bidding process under NELP, evaluation of overseas blocks, including economic and risk analysis, planning and exploration management. At Oil India Limited, he is focusing on intensification of exploratory and development activities through unleashing the power of the two E's, namely exploration and EOR. The emphasis has been to retain the position of Oil India Limited as leading operator in northeast of India and to expand the exploration activities outside northeast, especially in category 2 and 3 basins of India. We welcome you, sir. I would also like to welcome Ms. Barnali Barua Tokhi, President Technical BPRL. Ms. Barnali Barua Tokhi is the President Technical at Bharat Petro Resources Limited. BPRL has stakes in diverse places across world basins encompassing shallow and deep waters to Siberian on land. Indian conventional and unconventionals. BPRL operates blocks in Cambay Basin and Middle East. She has worked in Reliance Industries in deep water and US shale gas plays. Special projects on resource estimation and risk management were headed by her. She has also conducted training in resources estimation following the PRMS guidelines. We welcome you, ma'am. I would also like to welcome the moderator of the session, Mr. Ranajit Banerjee, Advisor, HELP, DGH. Mr. Ranajit Banerjee is the head of Department of Hydrocarbon Exploration and Licensing Policy, Department of the Directorate General of Hydrocarbons of India. He is responsible for the periodic licensing round bidding for the exploration acreages under the HELP and implementing the Open Acreage Licensing Policy Program. We welcome you, sir. And now may I request you, Mr. Ranajit Banerjee, to commence the session, please.
Thank you, Chandrima. It was a great introduction of the esteemed delegates from Schlumberger, Oil India, and BPRL. As you have introduced me, I run the hydrocarbon exploration and licensing policy on behalf of the Government of India, which is basin-driven, block-driven, work program-driven, and fiscal regime-driven policy for awarding exploration and hopefully subsequently production acreages. Having had the first three sessions today, we are now steeped with the knowledge of what is play-based exploration. I am sure everyone who is attending the conference are convinced that we in India know what is play-based exploration. However, the task of our group is to act as a bridge between the theory and the practice. So I would love to hear from each one of you the practice of play-based exploration, the digital technology enablers from Schlumberger, Chandrasekaran sir and Barnali madam, the vast experience in India as to what are the bridges, digital bridges, policy bridges, and practice bridges to transition. And should everything be encapsulated in a policy, or a separate stream of policy framework should be created for play-based exploration, as we perhaps try to have in the reconnaissance contracts in help, but which we dropped subsequently due to lack of interest. So without further ado, having set the context, I will request Mr. Hall to start his discourse and give us his insights.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about the digital transition, the digital exploration strategy, and kind of very bold statement of where everything comes together. There has been mentioning by some people in the past sessions about collaboration, about working together, about sharing information, about getting access to all the data. And this is indeed what the vision is for the digital solutions and the digital work that we see is coming in the industry. So my talk will be on the background for and the rationale for building a new digital exploration solution called ExplorePlan. So this is a cloud-native app that is already available on the market. I will use that as an example. I won't talk too much about the app itself. I'm talking more about the process leading up to the development of the app and what this app is supposed to solve for the industry. And I will use this then as an example of kind of telling you where the industry seems to be moving in order to create a digital solution based on true cloud-based solutions, building on the OSDU data platform. And I will address the challenges and the issues and hopefully the benefits that we will see from this. The next slide, please. So exploration assessment work today is hampered with a lot of issues. The truth, as we know it, is a complex matrix of structured and unstructured data. It's spread on multiple sources. And for us as explorationists to use all the relevant knowledge to build an exploration portfolio is both time consuming, and it has a risk for inconsistency, biases, and errors because we don't see the whole picture, or we don't have the time to collect all the elements that goes into it. Secondly, the tools that we use are not necessarily integrated. They are living their own life, and we need to move data from one tool, from one software, from one database to another, with the risk of not being up to date on all the knowledge that should be at our fingertips when we build our portfolio. Next slide, please. So based on this challenge that we got from interviewing a lot of our clients, talking to different companies, we identified a lot of pain points. Here is just shown some of them in exploration. And what people told us was, or users told us, was that they lose the knowledge, meaning they don't have full overview of where the data is. There is too much information. There is lack of transparency, no filtering, meaning there is they get overwhelmed with data in some cases. You have, in more mature areas, you have too many wells. You really can't see the trees for the woods, and there is typically also people work in silos. They don't communicate. They partly use the same data. There is lack of collaboration. No decisions is captured. We kind of tend to move ahead and redo our work many times over without really capturing the knowledge and capturing the decisions that was made. Terminology, also an issue. But to summarize this, move to the next slide, please. To summarize this into the four top pain points, as we can call it, in exploration. Finding the relevant data and be able to trust that these data are, in fact, the correct data is one of the major issues. And then that data and people are scattered and fragmented, meaning it takes a lot of time to get an overview and find the data. And as I mentioned, there is a wide range of non-integrated tools, and there is a lack of qualified and auditable decisions that needs to be reused for any workflow. The next slide, please. So the exploration funnel, you could say that the exploration funnel or an exploration venture is a numbers game, because we are betting on successes on different projects, different prospects. And we know that some of them will succeed, some of them will fail. Meaning the more you can spread your portfolio on different opportunities, the higher your chance is that some of them will succeed. But not only that, let's say that in most cases, the constraint on building and maturing an exploration portfolio is on available time and human resources. It's not on the lack of opportunities to evaluate. So if we say that a company, let's say, plan to drill 10 exploration wells next year. So if you can evaluate more opportunities while maintaining the quality through integrated digital solution, the result would be increasing the number of high quality opportunities you can choose from to drill the 10 wells. So this would effectively increase your chance of success, or you could say it increases your exploration efficiency. Because if you can mature and select from a wider range of opportunities, the ones you select should be of a higher quality than if you only have a limited number of opportunities that you work with. So the numbers, my point is, in exploration, the efficiency is not necessarily dependent on your ability to do only a great technical work. It is also dependent on how many opportunities you can process in order to select the best ones. The next slide. So the exploration funnel today is, the goals is to identify opportunities, to narrow down the number of opportunities and to prioritize the best ones. The pain points is that we struggle finding relevant data. There is a wide range of software tools, and there are inefficiencies and loss of fidelity in the workflow leading up to our selection. Next slide, please. So if we can improve the funnel and the benefit of this, then the ambition here is to be more efficient in prioritizing and polarization of more opportunities. So if you were able to have all the data in one place, have an integration and collaboration between all people working on this data to produce the exploration opportunities, then we could start working more efficiently. We can always build on knowledge, never lose it, because it's documented in one shared system that everybody uses. We could make better informed decisions, and we could shorten down the cycle time, meaning find more oil and gas quicker. And also, as shown here, you can increase the number of opportunities you can assess because you have all the data in place. You don't need to spend time on all these pain points that was kind of outlaid on the previous slide. Next slide, please. The digital solution ambition that the industry are, I think, to a great extent agreeing on is on increasing the exploration efficiency through reducing the time to discovery with up-to-date portfolio at all times, meaning you work on a system where everything is in communication and in a relational database. You generate more concepts and leads, increase the portfolio of opportunities through that, and you improve also the quality assurance by having all the data needed available, and you can look at the individual opportunities in the context of the play, of the other discoveries, of the wells, that is all at your fingertips within the same digital solution. Meaning you can make more informed decisions. You do not pursue the bad opportunities, but you can easily and rapidly select the best opportunities to pursue. So moving from a linear, siloed workflow with little visibility between the different disciplines, moving to a data-driven, integrated workflow enabled by digital technology with Audit Trail is what we see a lot of companies actually try to do by going digital. This is the driving force in the digital strive of many companies. Schlumberger has developed a solution that I will come to, but other companies are trying to do this as in-house solution by also going digital and making these connections. So I think there's a general trend in the industry that we are talking about digital solution not because we want to have everything in the cloud. We are talking about digital solution because they will solve our problems and our pain points as outlined here. Next slide, please. So the solution that we last year brought to market is called Explore Plan. And this is a cloud-native app that fosters accelerated exploration planning through a full integration. So based on the vision and the insight and the ambition that I outlined in the slides previous to this, we developed a solution that is called Explore Plan. And this vision was based on 3 important steps, which all are relevant to stages in exploration, from new venture, play-based exploration, to acreage acquisition, license evaluation, prospect identification, maturation, and taking the decision to drill the exploration well. So the first step in this is the framing and planning. So it's all about managing your global exploration projects, define projects, include planning, KPOs, teams, design tasks and projects in which the explorationists will work, in which they will do all their work, in which they will collaborate, share all the information, and record the information. Then get instant access to, in the evaluation phase, to get instant access to all the opportunities you already have in your opportunity, because all companies have a lot of historical opportunities and data that needs to be the foundation for new evaluations. And these can be instantly accessible to the team that has been designed and set up to work on a specific project, where you can interactive your spatial portfolio, so you can select, you can search in a map view to see, well, where are all the wells, what is the data, you can point to them, click it, go and open the data, all the data that is associated with all the wells, the seismic, the prospects, the fields, everything that is possible to store as data can be in this digital platform and be used for the evaluation. And then, so in our solution, we use the petrotechnical suite to capture the knowledge, and interactive boards where we start also then saving all the elements, all the knowledge that is gained through the work of the different teams. So these is the knowledge boards I will come back to a little bit more. And of course, you can also use this to manage your corporate exploration portfolio funnel, because you can review your exploration portfolio funnel and decide on the actions to be taken and addressed as business needs. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show a couple of slides, just how this looks on a screen of the user. So this is the project dashboard, where the managers and the team leaders will set up their teams and the projects, assign tasks to different people, give them access to the data that is needed to do this. And next slide, please. And when the team start working, they can go to the data discovery, where they have access to all the data that has been ingested into the cloud, that is making the basis for all the assessments. So here you can search from anything from cultural data to public data to proprietary data to existing analysis, seismic, everything that is relevant for the exploration can be searched in this data discovery and bring it up, and then the user will select what they need to capture and use in their project. Next slide, please. Knowledge is then also stored in relevant knowledge board, which will be shared by the other team members. So if there is relevant data that is found, it's shared by the team members within the team and documented and stored back into the system. Next slide, please. The portfolio is, in our solution, is using the GeoX, which does all the risk and resource assessment. And here you can view your portfolio in a map view. You can zoom in and zoom out and look at the neighboring structures, the play analysis, see the prospect in the context of the play chance risking. And you can also open the analysis, the tools that is where this is created. You can also open up your mapping system like BPRL to go in and review the map that is the foundation for the project. Next, please. And
we have roughly 2 minutes. Can we wrap up?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I can do that. So finally, this is also then used for the analytics, where you can link this to any business intelligence dashboard and do your ranking of the prospect, the ranking of the opportunities to make decision. Next one, please. So this digital transformation, this is just three out of many companies that we're working with. Equinor has been working on implementing Explore Plan and has given us very detailed insight in their workflow that has been implemented in this solution. SKK Migas have started using this from last year to manage their whole portfolio for as the government agency in Indonesia. OMV is on the full transition into a digital phase, also using Explore Plan. So there are many success stories, and this tells us that we are on a path here to a digital transition that will these companies believe is going to enhance their ability to improve their assessment, improve their exploration efficiency. Next one, please. So the digital solution, kind of finalizing this, where everything comes together. It's all about smarter solutions, smarter decisions, from geological to executive dashboards, so where your team can make informed decisions every step of the way. Outcome really matters. Understanding the geological reasoning and deploy solutions to mature prospects and move business forward. And prospects and development for the future, increasing your prospect portfolio and linking it back to the pure technical work so that the knowledge is never lost. This is kind of a key element in the digital solution. Next one and final slide, please. So the digital solution is going to increase the exploration efficiency through breaking silos and drive collaboration, increasing process efficiency and transparency through connecting technical activities to value-based decision-making, and provide insight and audit trails in the process. So thank you very much for your time. My talk was I was trying to address here the issues at hand that we have. It's been raised by several speakers before me that we need to work more in collaboration. We need to make sure that we have access to all the data. And this is really the foundation for the new solution that I'm talking about here. And I hope this is something that resonates with the audience.
Thank you, Per, for setting the contours of the digital ecosystem that certainly we are working on as an enabler. I'm sure the explorationists are working on. I will now straight away ask Dr. P. Chandrasekaran, as one of the biggest players in India, biggest off-takers under the HELP policy, under NOC's nominated regime, to give his perspective as to what as a practitioner he's doing to implement some of these ideas and concepts in his exploration strategy as himself and as speaking on behalf of the exploration community as well. Sir, can we start?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjit. It was wonderful. And this is not a rhetoric. I want to compliment DGH for having visualized and then organizing this webinar. In fact, it has been a pleasure to listen to all the panelists till now. And we have had Dr. Beyond talking. And in the last session, it was a wonderful session where they talked about, in fact, Sudhir Mathur was talking about the opening up of Barmer. It is so. Then I was when DGH asked me to give a topic, I was really when I saw the list of the people who are going to talk, then finally I mustered courage and gave a topic called Decision Maker's Dilemma. So I'm a geologist and I'm at the helm of affairs. So the dilemma should be less, but the endeavor is to take it from P10 to P90. So all along there is a dilemma also in decision making, and especially when you come to PBE, a lot of quantification is required. There is a lot of risk mapping is required, and it gives a great pleasure to be a part of this whole session today. And I'll just take a cue from what Sudhir Mathur talked. He talked about Barmer. In fact, every basin has a story to tell. I remember Kaveri Basin, there was a lot of drilling, and all the parametric wells and the structural wells went dry. There was a drilling holiday. 10 years later, around 8 to 9 kilometers away, they went and drilled Narimanam, and the basin was discovered. Anyway, so we'll proceed. So these are certain photographs. Oil India is a nature-loving company, and these are certain photographs which are taken by my colleagues in the beautiful swamp areas in Assam. So we are a very nature-loving, environment-loving company. Now, I'll very briefly go through, because everything has been talked about, but as Mr. Ranajit told, we wanted a bridge to what the practitioners do, and what the government should think of, and what the regulatory authority should think. So what I thought is I'll very briefly touch upon the successful play opening efforts and the pursuit of Oil India Limited, which itself in itself is a story, and the challenging plays with the huge YTF, what Sushma Rawat was talking about, and what Dr. Bian was talking about regularly about risking the plays, and then talking about the total risked and unrisked resources. So there are certain plays in certain basins which have a huge YTF. And then what is a dilemma? Like where does the dilemma lie in quantifying the geological risk, and then taking up certain wells for drilling and things like that. And then finally certain thoughts, which I wouldn't call them conclusions, but these are certain recommendations and certain thoughts. So as Mr. Sudhir was saying, and what Indrajit Barua was telling, so Oil India is known as a 3 million ton company. Like we've been able to maintain more than 3 million ton of production every year after year for several decades. And Mr. DG was telling in the morning in his opening remarks that not many great discoveries have been made, but still Oil India has been able to maintain the production levels of around 3 million tons for several decades. This has been possible. This is one of the most favorite slides of all oil Indians. So the most important reasons for maintaining this is when the is about the play opening efforts of Oil India. Like the profile would have been something like this had the business as usual scenario been there, and it would have been something like this with some new fields being discovered, but we would have been something around 2. But what happened was the Eocene fields were discovered, and there was no looking back. In fact, this is the same story when we come to the gas production as well. Like the current production profile is something like this, but the old fields which were on production, the Nahakatia and the Moran fields, so we would have been something much less than 0.5 BCM per year, which would have been around, say, 0.3, 0.2. But we are at 2, and we have got a huge resources, believe me. And we are, in fact, planning to increase our production to around 4.2 million tons of oil and to more than 5 BCM of gas. This also has been possible because of a constant endeavor, pursuit of the deeper plays. The Eocene play has been opened sometime during the 90s, and we have had it was a beautiful story. And now this also has not come so easily. Like this is what we started with Dig Boy, and this is the Tipam play where these were all possible because the depths were shallow, and they were mostly structural. And the next one is the Barail play was also contributing, and this was the entire area where Tipam, Barail, and the Girijan plays were finally, like what Mr. Sudhir was talking about, and everybody knows, every geologist knows. So I would like to trace, like 1956, the first well was drilled for Eocene. It was dry. 1960, it was dry. 1973, a well was drilled, which was gas. So gas was not a very preferred hydrocarbon type those days, so it was left. 1976, again a well was drilled, which went dry. 1981, again there was a gas well, again it was left. 1990, when Naharkatia 438 was drilled and it found oil, so it turned around the whole concept of the play-based exploration in Oil India, and it was pursued like anything, and we have been successful in doing this. But this is not so simple. It might look simple on certain slides here, but it is not. It is not simple, and I think all of you will agree with me. Now, a lot of things have been talked about the potential of the Indian sedimentary basins and the various plays. A lot of numbers have been talked about since morning, but I would definitely try to touch upon them very briefly. In this slide where you find a lot of numbers, what is most important to look at is we have got around 66% of all basin total in 4 basins, that is Mumbai, Rajasthan, KG and Assam Shelf. Now, out of these 19.7 billion tons, around 12 billion tons is only in 2 basins, that is in KG and Assam Shelf. And Oil India has been working in KG and Assam Shelf, like Indrajit was saying. This is where we have been working all along. And I would like to spend a few minutes on how the plays are challenging and what we are required to do in future, and how, because if you look at the total YTF here, it's around out of the total 9.5 billion tons in KG, around 7.5 is YTF, and in Assam Shelf it is 6 billion tons, and then 4 billion tons is the YTF. Now, even if you apply some risking, it cannot be less than around 2 to 3 billion tons in KG, and around 2 billion tons is definitely possible in Assam Shelf. Now, I will very briefly talk about, because both these basins, both Oil India has been working in KG and also Assam Shelf, and I have also been personally working very extensively in these basins. I would like to take only a couple of minutes in talking about such plays and what we need to do in future, because one of the main objectives of this webinar is to take home and make some policy or take some decisions on how to go about finding the yet to find potential in the Indian sedimentary basins. Now, you look at Paleogene. The Paleogene is the Eocene and Paleocene put together. It's around 3.6 billion tons is the resource, out of which only 77 million tons have been discovered, and the YTF is around 3.5 billion tons, or 98% of the total potential. And this is mostly in Eocene. And when we talk about the early Cretaceous and late Jurassic, that is 2.289 billion tons, and the YTF is 1.743, which is 76. Now, if you talk about the Eocene, there are several fields which are prolifically producing, but there is a huge potential when you come from onshore to offshore in the shallow water, where the ultra shallow water area is a big area where there is a lot of challenges because of the ultra shallow water depth, and as you go deeper into the Eocene, there is a huge problem of pressures, high pressures, and then which also lead to certain issues. Now, but nevertheless, what we need to understand is there is a huge potential. I think Mr. Sudhir Mathur and Pinaki would also agree with me that I think Kane drilled a well for Eocene in Rawa, which was one of the most complicated wells. And finally, there is all geologists agree that there is a huge potential, but we are yet to completely realize that. Then coming to the early Cretaceous and late Jurassic, which is around 1.7 billion, and out of this, around more than 500 million tons have been discovered, but they're all in 3P category. Now, the point is the pressure. It is Golapalli and certain part of Mandapeta there, where the pressure is more than 10,000 psi, and the temperature is more than 400 degrees, and it's a typical HPHT play. And already there are a lot of dispensations given by the government, but all of us do realize that yes, there is a lot of potential. And again, Kane has Nagalanka, they have done a beautiful job. The things have been brought on production, and ONGC is also bringing a lot of these resources onto production. But what is to be done is there is a huge potential in this. There are several hundred billions of dollars have already been spent by all the leading operators of India. Now, the next one is I'll go to Assam Shelf. Now, in Assam Shelf, like when we talk about Neogen and basically the Girijan and the Tipam play, where the thing is around 2.265, and the discovered is, and you have around 1.5 billion tons. And the Eocene and some basement, we have got around 3.7, and this only covers the Oil India's area. And further south, you have ONGC area, where it's almost the extension of the place is beautiful there also. So what do we see here? This is I would like to call this as a super basin, because there is a huge potential, and what we have realized is only a small bit of it. Now you see two sections here. One is the left side section is around 10 seconds. What we have drilled is only around 3,500 meters. This is in the Arunachal Pradesh area. And on your right is the Kumchai area. Here, we are still in Girijan. We are still in Pliocene. We have to, we are yet to reach Tipam. We are yet to see what is below, like what Sushma was telling in the morning. What do we see below this? And there is a well which also sort of blew out in Kumchai, indicating that the play is there to be discovered, the play is there to be exploited. And these wells are going to be definitely more than around 4,500 to 5,000 meters in depth. And because of this thrusting and other things, there is a lot of pressure issues also, high pressure issues also. Now, this is one thing what Indrajit Barua was talking about. Like he was talking about the huge potential below the Brahmaputra river, and there has to be one line in the north bank which will delineate the entire play, and we are yet to delineate it. And there is a huge potential. This side is the Bagjan, and as you go further north below the Brahmaputra river into the Kobuchapuri area, there is and the depths are going to be phenomenally higher, like it's going to be 4,000, 4,500, 5,000 meters, where it is going to be challenging to drill, and with so much of riverine area, you need to have certain sophisticated rigs to also drill. Now, this is the increasing target depths and increasing complexity. Like we have been as we go deeper, the play is extending, and we have not found the ultimate depth of these plays. Right now, we are around 5,000, 5,500 meters, and it is increasingly, ONGC had drilled one of the deepest onshore wells. And in this part of the country, I think the Mechaki has been drilled to more than 5,600 meters, which is very deep. And this is also the deepest producing play in onshore, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is again, this is a classic case where I think we have several partners in this block. The depth is going to be, we are planning to drill around 6,450 meters. This is the deepest well which Oil India would be drilling in the near future. You ask any geologist, he would want to drill. Ask any manager, he says, oh, this is going to cost me $30 million. And there's going to, so the quantification of geological risk and other things becomes very, very important. And then convincing the management, though I'm part of the technical management, convincing the management that NPV IRR is really a big challenge. So what I would say certain things in the concluding remarks, but what needs to be done is the play opening effort needs to be clearly understood and should be accorded its due credit. Now, another aspect is, like Mr. Indrajit was also talking about Mizoram. Now, the total area, when we see the full belt area, some of these areas you can't even do seismic. Like we carry out, we want to do seismic, but it's not possible. Most of these wells are drilled only based on geological models without having any seismic data. Now, I'll come to the conclusion part of it, and I'll just take maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes maximum. So the dilemma, like what happens is, the first basic tenet of PBE, that is play-based exploration, is CRS. You need to make the risk segment map, where quantification of geological risk both at the play level and prospect level is very, very important. So what you need to do, you need to go and calculate NPV, EMV, IRR, and then like this chart is Magoon and Dow. where he talked about the economics is very important at the play and prospect levels, but economics is not important at the sedimentary basin and the petroleum system level. But what I would like to say is economics is definitely important at the prospect level, but when we are talking about play opening efforts, it needs to be, we need to take certain cautious and conscious decisions. So geologists also have a reluctance in quantifying the chance of success, because the predictions may turn out to be wrong. Corporate values, like when somebody comes and gives a proposal for deep plays, we say that if he fails in one or two wells, we say, oh, this is going to be a dangerous one, and it is normally not taken. So like this morning, Dr. Reddy was talking about the seismic, the rocket science. What I would like to say is in rocket science, if you analyze the data and the statistics, the success rate is more than 90%. But in a petroleum exploration, even if you have a success rate of around 20 to 30% for exploration and 80 to 90% in development, it's considered as good. So we have still not fully understood the the density, the velocity, all those things which control all the so play extension. And so this is a suggestion to also DGH success rate definition. We need to distinguish between what we are doing. Are we doing a near field as everybody has told? While everybody, the input from very many departments is important, but it takes one imaginative explorer to find a giant oil field. So this is the whole gist of what we do. And the success rate, as I was trying to tell, is that the success rate needs to be distinguished between what we are trying to do, whether it is in an established play area or a new area, virgin area, and things like that. So some thought, I'll conclude now with a few thoughts. Like, as I told, like, economics is not, in my opinion, if we look too much at economics at the play level, it's the many of the plays may not be even opened, and people should consider this. While economics is very important at the prospect level, the play opening extension pursuit needs to be viewed as a growth opportunity. But at the same time, what needs to be done is the gambler's ruin should be avoided. So what do? We need to do like what Indrajit was also saying. A play-based exploration and development concepts are definitely a prerequisite, and we need to also give certain incentives to the players. So some thoughts. Let us now prioritize the plays in category 1 and 2 basins where there is a huge potential, and then draw a risk-reward profile for prioritized plays with the timelines. We can encourage operators to formulate what I would call as a PBDP, play-based drilling program, but at the same time, let regulatory agencies like DGH, which you are already doing, assist with all the clearances and provide certain incentives. What those incentives could be, I would like to quickly see the production from play depths below 4,500 meters. I think this should be given a status like what we already give for deep water. Maybe some such incentive can be thought of. Exploratory wells with more than 5,000 meters of TD could be funded by from oil cess fund. And HPHT and ultra shallow water development. HPHT already has certain benefits, but this, in my opinion, could be this needs to be enhanced. Otherwise, there is a huge potential of more than 1 billion tons, which is going to be difficult to be produced. And then ring fencing of MWP wells. The government wants more exploration to be done, and you can encourage operators to drill in new areas, plays with substantial YTF, and offset the MWP in other blocks, provided there is the operator finds no further prospectivity in a block. In logistically difficult areas, the seismic can be waived if a model-based drilling is undertaken by the operator. So there are several such things. We can go on and on, but what I would say is, as it is told, this is the time for exploration, and we would carry on with the dreams of all of us. And thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekaran, for at least laying the bricks to this bridge between play-based exploration theory and practice. I would now straight away go to Barnali, madam, and with the request that try to keep it slightly shorter than originally planned because we have overshot our time. Maybe try to complete it in 10-12 minutes, and you can skip some of the concepts which have been reiterated in the past presentations. So over to you, Madam.
Thank you, Ranajit. I will surely try to complete it within 10-15 minutes. And I'd request, thank you so much. I know that the topic given to me was exploration strategy and policy framework, but I knew the eminent speakers before me would speak a lot on the exploration strategy, the play-based exploration concepts and elements. So I'm glad that I have left all that part out from my talk, and I'm just going to speak on the policy frameworks, which is going to aid towards accelerated exploration. So if you go to the next slide, we know that India is the third largest energy consumer in the world. According to the Energy Outlook India, the demand is only going to double. We are the third largest consumer of oil, the fourth largest LNG producer. So India needs to have rapid expansion plans as far as exploration goes, so that we can address the Prime Minister's goal of 10% reduction in the import bill. We know that investment in exploration is planned to be increased in multiple folds. So and we have heard all these speakers throughout the day as how they have planned their exploration strategies. So what we need today, apart from all the operators working on the exploration strategy, is the policy support from the policymakers. So if you go to the next slide, So we know that any regulatory framework in the upstream for a country like India has to serve two main objectives. The first is to ensure that all possible sedimentary basins get adequately explored, especially the category 2, 3, and 4. And then the main part is the revenue generation. We should not shy of saying that we are here to make money, but at the same time, not to compromise on the exploration quality. So what is the present framework? We know that the present framework focuses on revenue generation as the endpoint. So all the rank and high risk exploration has no or very limited incentive. DGH in the morning also said that we need to incentivize anybody who goes into these rank exploratory areas. So currently the contractor only has hopes of making money through the bidding with high revenue share. So that should not be it. He will only make money once the exploration is a success. What we need to do is incentivize people with new ideas, people willing to explore in new areas with new technology. So that is one thing that the policy makers have to keep in mind before any bid round that comes up. So some of the things that I could think of where the policymakers can help us is coming in the subsequent slides. So before I get into it, I'd like to just submit here that BPRL along with IOCL, we operate one block in the Middle East. Can you take us to the next slide, please? We have formed a company called Urja Bharat. And there we have had a successful appraisal drilling campaign. And we are just about to commence our exploration program. And I lead that project. So I would like to bring the learnings that we as an Indian operator overseas in the Middle East, what we have learned from there, so that we can bring those learnings into our country and we learn from that. And it's going to help our policy making as well. So some of the challenges that we face in India is the land availability. See, documentation of the perceived risks with environmentally protected and defense areas should be marked. We have seen that in the help rounds, the no-go areas are marked. However, some of the areas, once we get into the exploration mode, we come to know that there are cities where we cannot drill, or there are some other, that is an identified agricultural land where we cannot possibly do exploration. Different states have different ideas of whether we can do exploration there or not. So in case they are documented before the bidding process in greater clarity, that would help, because we know that the time is essence. We have very limited time to complete our exploration program. In case land availability and environmental clearances are taken care of before, it would help a great deal. One thing that we have learned from ADNOC is that they have a list of vendors who can help us with the environmental clearances in their country. If such a platform exists in DGH website or any regulatory or facilitating authorities' websites, that would help everyone, because any new player coming into the country, or people like us, BPRL, who are not a big operator in this country, we only operate about 2 to 3 blocks here. So that would help us a great deal in case we are aware of which areas or what kind of environmental clearances are required. We know that in Gujarat, there are some rules. In Assam, there are other rules. There are very difficult rules in Tamil Nadu. So in case we have a framework already made, or a list of vendors available who are going to help us with that, that would help us in saving time and cost, and that will lead to better management of timelines and operational planning. So even the operators, the established operators like ONGC, Oil, or even Cairn, if they can share their past experiences, that would greatly help the new operators or the smaller operators who come into the country to do exploration work. So can you take us to the next slide? One of the things that is wanting in the country is a robust HSC policy. I know that the big companies like ONGC, Oil, they have their policies in place. But one thing that I have learned from operating in Abu Dhabi is that ADNOC has a very specific guideline for health, safety, and environment. I'll come to the points in the next slide. And every operator that comes into the country, please bear in mind that they have started their welcoming other operators only from 2019 onwards. And before that, they have put all these policies in place so that any new operator that comes adheres to the guidelines of the country, that there are no substandard work, or so that is one of the things that we need to take care of. And the second thing that we need to take care of is the community engagement plan. I know that all the bigger companies, they do CSR activities, but CSR activities come once the production is in place. So one more learning that I can bring into my country is engaging the community before you start your activities. Like I'll come to one slide subsequently where I'll speak a little more on that. The world is changing. We all know that. We are looking at greener energies, but the fossil fuels are not going anywhere. But we have to address the question of carbon sequestration. India has signed the Paris Climate Agreement to cut down the greenhouse gas emissions to combat global warming. So some sort of support is required to frame the efforts to reach the long-term goal towards financial, technical, and capability buildings in carbon sequestration. So carbon capture is need to be done. So those plans have to be in place, and certain reservoirs or depleted reservoirs with wells can be identified so that the sequestration process can be carried out. We have to bear in mind that the international financial institutions and banks nowadays do not help financially any company till you have a plan in place for carbon sequestration. In case we try to bring foreign players into our country to partner already available operators or work independently in the country. So to welcome them or to entice them to come and work in our country, we need to have a carbon sequestration plan in place. So the policymakers can work towards that. All support can be provided by the operators already here, and people, I know OVL, Oil India, even BPRL, we work with international operators, and they have a plan in place. We can bring that analysis, that study into our country to keep up with the global changing scenario. Coming to the next slide, please. Yeah, so these are some of the HSC related documents that needs to be prepared if you operate in Abu Dhabi. These are only 1/10 of that. I just, for an idea, I have put them so that we know that there is a compliance towards HSC, a role, the one person with that role is identified, and any kind of question that comes in, the person has to he has to comply and he has to respond within the given time frame. So there is a document for each of these subtopics so that we know what to address the moment we have a crisis situation or before a crisis situation even arises. Coming to the next slide. Yeah, so this is community engagement plan. So this is something I'm very keen that we bring into our country, because we know Abu Dhabi is, it's a economy that is based out of oil and gas, and each community there is well versed with oil and gas practices that goes on. Still, when we came into the country as an operator, we had to engage with the community around, and the community around is very diverse. There are tribals, there are villagers, there are rich people with farmhouses. We had to engage with everyone. We had to explain to them the importance of the project. The stakeholders and nearby communities were made aware of, what is going to happen in the next few days, that bigger vehicles are going to come in, we are going to drill a well, there might be noises, you might see a flare, that kind of introductory things. Brochures were sent. Here also, if I think of my state of Assam, in case we start some exploration activities in the form of maybe civil work, starting or drilling of a well, we can talk to the Gaubura there and tell him, everybody has a mobile phone. We can tell him beforehand such and such activities are going to start. It's not going to disrupt your daily life. We will be there to help you in case you need any answering of any questions that you have in your mind. Build a relationship with the community so that, and address the concerns of the community for smoother functioning. It's very important. We need to bring that aspect into India. Coming to the next slide. There is always this, for smaller operators especially, if you can bring me to the next slide. But one of the challenges that we face is finding a rig operator today in our country. So in case DGH can have a unified portal for the operators, this will benefit not only the small operators, but even ONGC and oil and the service providers, so that we know the service providers already identified by DGH operating in the country. We as PSUs, we need to follow the contracting procedures of open tendering and stuff. But even for private players, they can just go check the service providers, choose the one that is best equipped to handle their need, and that is going to help so much in their time and cost management. Dr. Chandrasekaran spoke about one of the wells that are planned to be drilled in Assam of 6,450 meters. We are a partner of that project. We are very keen that it is actually drilled. but there is want of a proper suitable capacity rig. So that is going to, once we have a bidding round complete, we know the requirements that are going to come in from the operators. If the requirement can be put in place in the portal within DGH, the service providers can look into it, and then they can already start mobilizing because they will know the requirements, and that is going to help all of it. It's also going to help the MSME industry, which is going to benefit them, and that will be a great enabler. Coming to the next slide, all the speakers before me have talked about the various exploration strategy. So we know that we have to focus on the lesser explored plays. There are some discoveries that were made, so thought, through serendipity, but that can be a clue for untapped prospectivity, and we need to bring the play-based studies even for those serendipitous discoveries. And all the risk perceives and mitigation plans needs to be detailed out so that a robust play-based exploration strategy can be made. So if you can take me to the next slide.
Madam, kindly wrap up your presentation. We have overshot slightly. Not your fault.
Just 2 minutes. Yeah, just half a minute rather. So here I have used DGH's map. What I have added here are the regional lines that are needed to be acquired to look for the intra-basinal plays. That is one. And another thing that we need to do here is that we have a lot of 3D seismic already available. If you take me to my last slide, I'd just like to tell you that in one of the blocks that we operate, 4 such seismic were available. However, nothing could be made out of it. Once we merged it into and did some processing, we could see some beautiful channels emerging out of it. Those, I call them, our hidden gems. So in case data acquisition and data merging and processing, if it can be taken at a national level, that would greatly benefit all the operators working here. So that's all I had to talk about. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you again.
Thanks a lot, Barnali Madam, for setting the HAC context of exploration and also bringing knowledge sharing from Abu Dhabi into the decision-making process. We have laid the foundations of the practice of play-based exploration. I personally am not satisfied. We have to brainstorm further how to see we will implement this in practice from the transition from theory to practice. Do we have any questions that we can address, or we go to the next session? Prosenjit, do we have questions?
There's one question from Mr. AVVS Kamaraju. He asks, today land acquisition is the hardest task. Why not we make landowners a shareholder in case of a discovery? This is
Mr. Chandrasekaran, maybe you can, Dr. Chandrasekaran, you can answer this. I've seen the problems in Assam where villagers have put up signboards, and the theory was discussed there. Why not give them an equity or some kind of royalty stake like in the US? Is it a possibility? Is it, or you're constrained by your governmental status of being more flexible?
No, actually, the government of India, the resources below the surface belong to the state. So, hence, see, that is why this Article 371 in Nagaland, this is the biggest, point of debate. So, what Mr. Kamaraju has told is very relevant. But the point is, we cannot, I think it is up to the operators to do it. We find it very difficult. And what Madam Barnali was also talking about is engagement with the local, but it's an extremely difficult thing, because the point is, once you start giving to one particular, even we are unable to do the unitization issues. Like I think let me not get into the details of these things. But the point is, it basically is governed by the government rules, which state that the resources belong to the state below the surface of the earth. So what we can do is the operators can definitely engage. The biggest problem today is the land acquisition. So we have been able to do it to some extent. Even in KG Basin, I know Mr. Kamaraju knows that the value which is given to the landowner is more, but the sharing of the thing is, I don't think it can be allowed under the current set of rules. But yes, it can be discussed, there can be a debate, but I don't think with the current set of regulations, it's possible.
Yeah, the royalty flows to the state government or the central government as the owner of the resource.
Yes.
Yes. So that is about it. Some framework can be worked out where more community participation is perhaps needed in some cases.
Yeah.
So if there are no further questions, we can, with thanks to pair Dr. Chandrasekaran and Visha and Barnali madam, we can conclude this session and hope that we will build the bridge, the policy bridge and the practice bridge more robustly in the near future for play-based exploration.
Thank you everyone for the active participation. I would like to thank all the distinguished personalities who have been a part of all the sessions. I'm sure it has been an exhaustive session full of knowledge and leaving us with some really thought-provoking statements on the focus on play-based exploration. So thank you once again.